We're back with the group now, and we're going to talk a little bit more. We've talked a lot about why home visits are so critical to our charism as Vincentians. I want to talk a little bit more about the practicality of home visits. So, home visits will look differently for different conferences. So maybe a couple of folks around the table could just explain a little bit the process of a home visit from, that initial receiving a request from a Vincentian all the way through to actually visiting someone in their home. So I throw that to the floor.
We're fortunate, I think, as many conferences are now, that we have a mailbox on the parish. We have a call coordinator, so people volunteer maybe a month at a time, pick up all the messages, and record who's called, who needs assistance. Depending on the situation, if it's someone that we have visited in the past, often those will just get sent out. So we just take a roster approach. It's kind of like who's next in line to do a visit. You find your partner and off you go. But I think the really important part of this is knowing who you're visiting. Keeping some simple notes of the prior visits is really important. And I think it makes a real impact on the people that we visit, that we can come back, whatever it might be, 6 weeks later, 2 months later, 3 months later, and say, hey, you were telling us that you weren't feeling well. How are you doing today? Or you were telling us that you had a job interview. How did it go? So that kind of record keeping, just to emphasize how much we really do care, that we are engaged, that we want to make a difference, to be that present, friendly person. That really simple record keeping and being prepped before you go out, really important.
Like Anne, we also have a mailbox. The call comes in and the information comes in. If you're on call duty, then you pretty much need to get some details of the call. You need to know the number of persons in the family, if it's adults, children. You need to be able to pack your non-perishable food stuff, get your voucher. Very importantly, get your co-member, because we always go in pairs. And then when we call, ensure that we make the visit. For like me personally, I do more weekend calls because I work during the week. So I'm the weekend guy. So usually we go out, and of course, once we have everything together, we get together, we pray, we do the visit, we make notes. And as Anne says, the small details that we will get from the last visit, it's so important that they're like, because they've never seen me because I'm not during the week, right? But I know. So the small question and relation that you do with them makes a ton of difference. At the end of it, we ask them if they'd like us to pray with them. If they say yes, we pray. Most times they always say yes. And then we then do our closing prayer as a team. We get the information together, send it up, and it's recorded. And that's it.
I will add a couple things that came to mind. And I go back to being that active listener. And I think it's just trying to reinforce our Christian values. And I emphasize Christian values because, as we all know, a large portion of our demographic may not be Christian. But that doesn't mean that we ourselves cannot apply our Christian values. And by Christian values, I mean active listening. As Anne mentioned, trying to personalize that experience as much as possible. And trying to remember to be compassionate, because a lot of our neighbors in need live extremely difficult lives. And that bit of empathy could just be the one thing that they're looking for on that day.
Some people might be under the false impression that every visit is the same, or that your first visit will resemble largely your 8th visit, your 9th visit, your 10th visit. So maybe people could comment a little bit on, from your first visit to your second visit to your third visit, what are some of the differences you might see over time? Not just with yourself and how you approach people, but perhaps your relationship.
Trust. Relationship, you said the word right in your comments, Brendan. It's a relationship. If you have been serving a long time neighbor in need, and we have, I'm sure we all have, for all sorts of different reasons, you create a rapport, you create a relationship and a trust. And as you get to know them and they get to know you, I think sometimes they can be a little bit more open. they feel more comfortable in actually answering that question, you know, what's new with you today, what's been going on. Yeah, and you know, we said earlier, we can't solve all the big problems and can't solve all the little ones either. But at least then they feel often, I hope, more confident, more comfortable in saying what really is going on. I mean, I think it takes a number of visits to really get to understand how people really are doing. And yeah, the visits absolutely evolve. For sure they evolve from a very, you know, all of our visits, we want to be engaging and friendly, but, you know, a lot of times it's a very cursory start. You get the basic info and you may never see them again. And then maybe you've been serving someone for 15 years and you watch their kids grow up and have kids of their own. And like, it just feels terrific.
How to be in the moment is very, very important, and praying to leave the baggage behind is something we all have to face every day. And it's almost like you have to sit yourself down and say, okay, what am I going to do? What am I trying to accomplish? What am I doing tonight? I'm going out to see some people who need some help, and I'm going to focus on them instead of focusing on me. And being in the moment is what this is actually, Stephen really described that well. You have to leave as he said, your baggage behind. You must leave your baggage behind. We all have stuff that happens every day that can annoy us, can drive us crazy, can preoccupy us, and we have to leave it behind. And that's so, so important. And it matters because it'll impact the way we do things.